Hey everyone, Dan from Let's Talk Oculus here. Now, normally I preface the show by telling you what's coming up in the show, but I want to use this time to address the devastation that's happening in Maui, Hawaii right now. Lots of people's lives are lost, a town burnt down due to natural disasters, natural wildfires. Me and Samson are truly devastated by everything that's happening. So what we're going to do is for the August Patreon, we're going to donate 100% of it to the Maui Strong Fund. Now, the Maui Strong Fund is set up by the Hawaii Community Foundation. And with your donation, 100% of it will be distributed amongst community needs. Donate for yourself. Anything will help. I will leave a link in the description so you can learn more about it. And without it being a bit awkward, on to the show. Let's Talk Oculus, a VR podcast, is proudly sponsored by the good folks at Patreon. If you want to support the show, join us on patreon.com/Let's Talk Oculus. What's up, Oculus nerds? Welcome back to Let's Talk Oculus, episode 99. 99. Can you believe it? 99. I'm your host, as always, Dan from Playtest VR, and I'm joined by my co-host, as always, Samson. What's occurring?
Ready to party like it's 1999.
Very good, very good. I want you to start singing some Taylor Swift on our live stream.
Taylor Swift?
Yeah.
Her album was 1989.
Oh, damn it.
Yeah, 1999 would be the Prince song, I believe.
That's it. That is the Prince song, yes. Definitely. I think we record this podcast now. But
No.
What's up, everybody? How is everyone doing? We just want to preface this show before we go through anything is that episode 100 is next week. Actually, by the time you're listening to 99, it will be 4 days away. So we are going to do a live stream on Sunday the 20th, live on our YouTube channel at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 7 p.m. Eastern Time.
Come on down.
You just scared everyone with that. But yeah, come on down. Absolutely. We are going to have a fun show. We got a fun topic to discuss, which we won't disclose until the show begins. We also have a bunch of announcements for the podcast and moving forward. And we also are going to go through some listener questions. So we got a couple questions last week, which we'll just save for episode 100. But if you want to throw in your question, even if it's just like, we just want to know a bit more about one of us, then feel free to send us an email at letstalkoculus@gmail.com or ask it in the Discord. I will also, when I get around to it, it's been on my to-do list to put like a Google questions form in the Discord. So I'll put that in the Discord. And in fact, I'll actually put that in the comments, in the description for this podcast as well. So you can go in there. You don't have to go on the email. Just click on the Google form and submit a question. And then we will answer it live on episode 100.
Yes. Please ask away. There is questions we won't answer, but they're far and few between.
Interesting. That is the challenge. Can you ask us a question that we won't answer? That's one of the challenges. But anyway, we got a fun show today. There's not much happening in the VR news front, but what we are going to go through is kind of giving us the introduction of ourselves. In episode 1, we went through who we are, what our gaming history was, how the podcast became, what's our relationship with VR, etc. And we've kind of touched on that in other podcasts. We've been on the VR Verdict podcast. We've been on Between Realities podcast as well, which is on Upload VR. We went through our history in there, but in our actual show, I don't think we've done it since episode 1. And there's been a lot of more new listeners since episode 1.
A few new ones.
A few new ones. So it'll be good to kind of go through an interview of kind of ourselves. But before we get into that, Samson, anything that you've been playing in VR? I've heard you got a good Breachers run recently, right?
Yes. I got into some Breachers Friday night. Got pew-pewed a bunch. Then I'm not sure I really played much else other than Breachers Friday night. I've been a little busy. Went to New York for the weekend and only just got back. I don't even really think I played much Flat. Quite.
Yeah, that's fair.
How about yourself?
That's fair. Well, I have only played one, only a little bit, and I played Galactic Catch, which is the fishing game I by Baobab Studios, who are normally an interactive VR maker. So they don't really make games; they normally make the short films. Like Paper Birds, for example, is probably one of the most popular ones. Invasion, which is really really short. It's like a 10 minute or so, with a little cute bunny that kind of runs around. But they do loads of shorts. They actually got, I think they're 9 times Emmy award nominated, or award winning rather.
It's a lot of
Creators of
Emmys.
the interactive shorts. There's a lot of enemies, and some people have said that they are the Pixar of VR, the Pixar of VR, which is a big compliment
Yeah,
to be
yeah, yeah.
honest. But
Though
their
modern
first
modern
game,
Pixar has sort of fallen off.
I think, because I don't know if it's fallen off or it's just the fact that there's so many other good companies now.
Or
Um,
are they like
Illumination, for example.
they went to Disney Plus for the COVID and they stopped releasing in theaters. And now
Yeah,
they've gone back to theaters, and I think people just want them on Disney Plus now. And I think they've
yeah.
gotten themselves in
Pickle.
quite a little pickle there.
Yeah, I guess a lot of people got used to it, you know. The same with like all the Marvel stuff. Like a lot of it's coming as TV shows now rather than movies as much. Probably because I don't know if it's more of a budget thing or because of just COVID caused it. But no, you got like Illumination Studios who actually did the Mario movie, which is on Prime right now as a little gaming
Well, that's the thing,
site.
Dan. This is the problem, right? The two best animated movies this year were IPs, whereas Pixar is known for making a huge blockbuster with an unknown, like a new story,
That's true.
right? And now we've
That's true.
got Nintendo and Spider-Man.
That's true. That's true. And both Mario. I've not seen the second Spider Verse, to be
I
honest.
haven't seen
It's
any
on
of
my
them.
list. I'm waiting for it. The first one's phenomenal. Like the first one's like 10 out of 10 movie, animated movie. It's so good. It's better than all the Marvel films, like all of them. I'm throwing it out there. Like it's better than Infinity
Bold.
War and all that jazz. Like it's better than every single one of those.
Get in the
Spider Verse
comments and
came in.
complain about this point of view.
It's just not. It's not even a complaint. I feel like it's universally known that that is fundamentally the best one of any Marvel that came out. Is that one? It's not even part of the universe. Um, yeah. Anyway, back to Galactic Catch. You've played this before. Obviously, you talked about it before. It's
Many,
the
many hours.
yeah. It's This is how I describe Galactic Catch. It is real VR fishing as a Disney, is that's what I would say, because it obviously it's not like real in terms of the graphics are not more real. It's not real fish, you know. You got some fantasy land and alien fish and such,
Yeah.
but it just feels like Disney to me. And the reason why is because two things. One, the sound design. I think the sound design is excellent. Like the music is very fun. It feels like you're in like Disney World or Disneyland, and you're in one of those rides where you're just sat in a cart and they're just taking you around and there's things
Yeah.
happening and
Like it's a
such,
small
you know.
world.
Yeah. That's very fun. It feels like you're just in the theme park, actually, just walking around. You get that music, you know. It's the same kind of music, and also the vibrant worlds. You know, there's many worlds in there. I've only done the first one, but I peeked on YouTube just to see what other people have done and what other worlds there are, and they're so vibrant and fun and just different,
They're
right?
definitely
Like real VR
colorful.
fishing,
Yeah.
very colorful, yeah. And real VR fishing is obviously known to be amazing, right? A lot of people love that game and it's great. But this is just one for maybe people on a completely different setting, you
It's
know.
very
It's
different.
still the same thing as in the core, but it's a very just different
Yeah.
setting and a different feeling.
Different.
But you played it much since you first played it?
Well, since I first played it, I beat it. Since I beat it, I haven't played much.
That's fair. That's fair. So they need some DLC is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, some new fish to catch, multiplayer maybe, DLC. It's pretty
Yeah.
good. It's pretty good. Oh, Dan, I did remember though. I did also hop into Synth Riders. Got into their week of competitions again. I think this time though, I only got one top 5, and then I was number 7. I don't know. I haven't had
Oh,
enough time to like
number
pound
7.
to pound away. Yeah, so
Number 7. That's some rookie
I
numbers
know. I
right
know.
there.
I could have gone even worse. I think I checked on Thursday, the day before they
Yeah.
closed. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm also you wanted some LTO clothing, and so I decided I'm wearing the LTO shirt today.
You
So
are actually, people on the video, I forgot to mention at the top of the show. You have some new facial hair, which is I would say a nice look. Definitely a different look, but a nice look. You've gone for the audio listeners. We've got more
I
stubble.
have
And you've got more
A
stash.
whole Civil War. No, for the audio listeners, I have a whole Civil War beard. It's fantastic. It's just the chin is cut out. It goes down and around and up and under. It's just picture like a Civil War Union, and I guess they both sides probably
And
had terrible facial hair back then. But yeah, that's what
I
it is.
love
Trust
the
me.
I love the fact that it's also dyed pink and dyed orange. It's like a weird mix. It's like a slushy, like a mixture
An
of
an
slushies.
LTO color slushy.
Yeah. So definitely, if you're on the audio, come to the video so you can check out this amazing facial hair. It's
Yeah.
very impressive. Very, very, very impressive. As a tease for LTO 100, you are wearing your LTO shirt, but there are new merch on its way. And in LTO 100, we will show you said new merch. But that's a little tease. That's a little tease.
New merch alert! New merch alert! Here
Even if you
comes
went
the
on
new
our merch
merch.
If you went on our merch website, you won't be able to see them because they're all on private, but they're ready
It's
to
been
go.
taken down.
So get they're taken down. So get used to that. Get ready for that rather. Anything else you've been playing?
Nay.
I've not been playing anything else, but I want to just quickly. I know we normally touch this at the end, but since this is a different kind of show today, I want to touch it now. Ready Player One.
You can touch it.
We're in it. Okay, you can see how much I've done. We've done like 5 chapters. Okay, we're slowly progressing. I'm enjoying it so far, very much so. And I don't know, a lot of people who are listening and watching this podcast have either read it or have watched the movie already. I am one of the few who have not done either, which is very weird. But I am loving it so far, and it feels very real. It like feels very close to like home in terms of this like
Like it
you've
could
got
happen.
schooling that's like schooling is in the metaverse, a lot of people spend that in time. The whole world's gone to crap, with the climate change and all that stuff. I can kind of picture that happening. It's just 2044, I think it's based in. And it's like when I'm reading this, I'm like, this is, and some stuff in the metaverse, I was like, this is kind of what's also already available. Is starting to build the foundations now, which is kind of cool to kind of read about. But yeah, loving the book so far. We will have to, if anyone wants to watch it again, we should watch it in big screen once I finish reading it.
I will say, Dan, Amelia responded, I think in the Rough Talk Discord too. She pinged me on that, and she said that Ready Player 2 is in fact terrible.
Very well. It's okay. Ready Player One, I'm having a good time. Having a great time. Maybe I'll, if it's that bad, I'll just, just pretend it's just a one book only, its own story. But yeah, having a really good time with it. And I love even though I wasn't born in the 80s, or grew up in the 80s, rather, I love the 80s references in there when he's talking about like the old consoles. Like some of these consoles, like the Commodore 64 and such, like my dad told me about these consoles because he used to have the BBC Micro, which was like the Commodore 64's kind of like rival in a way. But he used to have that, and I remember him telling me stuff about it, and it's kind of fun just to read about these kind of references in the book as well. So
Nice.
obviously I know you haven't read the book, but
I've seen the movie.
So I'm curious to see how like accurate the movie is to the book, or how like true it is. But yeah, having a great time. So technically in the VR space of what I've been playing, but what I've been reading.
We do have a book section of the Discord, so come on down.
We do in the Discord. We have book recommendations. Absolutely. Okay, let's get into the topic of the show. Our gaming history before VR. Well, not before VR. That's going to be also before VR. But just like gaming history in general, how we got into VR and such, and all that jazz.
Whoa. Gaming history pre-VR too, right?
Yeah.
Your
Here we
flat
are.
history.
Yeah, your flat history as well. Yeah, everything. We're just gonna go all out. This is gonna be a more intimate
A
episode.
gaming podcast, if you will.
Yes, a gaming podcast, an
More
intimate
general.
gaming
Yeah.
podcast. In fact, I should have sat down. I
Not
should have
that
put the
intimate.
I should have got the wine out. I should have done that. I should have put
That's
some
too
smooth
intimate.
jazz on in the background. Yeah, maybe that could be episode 101. We'll think about that. This big
It
change to the
sounds like
podcast.
episode 169, maybe.
Oh, okay. We've gone that far.
Nice.
We've gone that far. All right. Let's start off. I'm going to ask the opening question to you, Samson, and I'm going to make it a more generic one. But as a kid, what was your gaming like? As you were growing up, would you play much flat VR, flat VR, play much flat games, or were you not much of a gamer?
Well, as a wee little lad, as I used to call myself in the late 90s, I had a PlayStation 1, and I played
Nice.
some. I think my original gaming was going to my neighbor's house, playing on his Sega Genesis. Then my first system was the PlayStation 1, and I used to do some PC gaming, I guess, like real OG PC gaming, some Unreal Tournament, some Warcraft 2.
Yes.
And then eventually a little Battlefield, I think. One of the Battlefields.
On PC.
On PC. Yes, sir.
Nice.
And my focus on the PlayStation 1 and console-wise was really platformers, couch co-op games, Crash Bandicoot, these things. Crash Bash. I actually really liked Crash Bash myself.
I love Crash Bash. I used to play that to death.
Love a good party game, yeah.
One of my favorite Crash Bash mode is the one where there's like four players and they're in like their little like carts, shall I say, and there's a ball in between.
It's kind of like Pong, where you get four. Yeah,
it's like Pong with four people. Yeah, that was so much fun. Yeah, I used to play that to death, Crash Bash on the PS1. And they're remaking Crash Bash or coming out with like a similar game, right?
A new Crash Bandicoot came out about a month or so ago on consoles. PC got left off, but it's called Crash Team Rumble. Crash Team Rumble. That's it.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, because that's like apparently on the Crash Bash kind of.
Yeah, it's not mini games or anything. I think it's more like some sort of you're a team and you're trying. Yeah, I don't know. It's some sort of battling. You're battling in teams, but it's not so much doing mini games.
Yeah. Gosh, that was such a good game. Anyway, back to you.
Back to me. Then, as I got into PlayStation 2, I got more into Grand Theft Auto and racing games like Need for Speed Underground. This was like 02, 03, 04, that type of time frame. Then as I went into college, I was a Sony dude, obviously, as my PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2. Then I switched over because let me tell you, the PlayStation 3, Dan, did not have a good launch. And
I think a lot of people switched over, to be honest.
And I was busy making fun of people who bought PlayStation 3s, and I had a 360.
You're that guy.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You're that guy.
I was
the console wars were in full effect back then, to be fair.
Yeah. It was really, I didn't have the self-confidence in myself, and I didn't want to be made fun of for owning a PlayStation 3, so I couldn't do that.
That's fair. Yeah. It was expensive too back in those days. Like the PlayStation 3 was pretty pricey compared to the 360. I think there was like a big, like $100 or $150 difference. Yeah. Like it was quite substantial.
It was pricey. It didn't have really games, very good ones at launch. Developers there was all this talk that they were having trouble developing for it. It wasn't great. Then all I had to deal with the 360 was my Red Ring of Death. So,
Did you get one?
Oh yeah. I remember Googling or whatever I was search engineing back then, maybe Dogpile or Yahoo. And there was a quote unquote squeeze method, and you would turn your 360 on and you would squeeze it from like it would be vertical, and you just squeeze both sides. You'd give it some pressure, and holy hell, it worked, dude.
Yeah, I remember stuff like that where if I don't remember if it was a 360, but I remember the old consoles like the PS1, for example. If it couldn't read your disc, just put a pile of books on top of the PlayStation 1. And I think because it technically squeezes it down, it's able to read the disc, and it worked all the time. like when for my PS1. It's crazy how those little like
It's
you don't really
crazy.
get that anymore, right? Where it's those little hacks that you'd find that will work with the older consoles.
I'm inclined to think it was kind of BS, but I do. It
I
did
mean, the
work,
box worked.
so
The blowing on the disc and the cartridge always worked for the Genesis.
yeah, yeah. There you
So,
have it. Yep. So 360 college, Gears of War. Also, all this time I'm playing Madden. I was very into Madden around these times.
yeah,
But yeah, got into Gears of War, Halo Reach, and then I said bye bye to the Xbox, and I got a PS4. And then I
nice.
pretty much played everything. By that point, I was in life. I was teaching. I wasn't in school. I didn't have as much time to game all the time. So yeah. And then yeah,
Nice.
so that brought me all up to when
Oh,
I
up
got
to
VR. How about yourself? Where did you
it's
beginning?
it's very funny because as you were saying all that, I kind of wanted to butt in, but I was stopping myself because it was very similar. Like, it was very, very similar. So when I'm a little bit younger than you, but had the exact same thing where I was born into a Genesis. So we called it the Mega Drive in the UK. It
Yep,
was
yep,
called the
yep.
Sega Mega Drive. But my uncle, who was living with us at the time, and my dad both had their own Genesis consoles. And one, I think my dad had like the slim version, like the redesigned version. And then my uncle had like the OG, which was more fat. I think my dad won it in a competition. Um, but same thing. I remember playing stuff like Michael Jackson Moonwalker, which was really fun. Sonic,
It's a weird
obviously. I
game.
still love to this day. Sonic is still like my favorite mascot, just because I grew up with that. More than Mario and Crash and all that stuff. In fact, I got a Sonic poster on the way, which I will show you all
Ooh.
when it does come, but that's not come yet. Massive fan of Sonic, but also Game Boy was a big thing during that
I
time.
forgot
I'm
my
sure it
Game
was for
Boy.
you.
Yeah, I forgot about handhelds. Yeah.
Yeah, like I was big into Pokemon. I remember having Pokemon Yellow on the big fat Game Boy, but that was like my dad's Game Boy, and then I got the Game Boy Color as a birthday present.
Bro, I don't even know I have a concept of how much Game Boys were back then because obviously my parents were getting these for me. But I had
Yeah.
the Game Boy Pocket and the Game Boy Color. And I remember that little tiny Game Boy Pocket was so small. Game Boy Color,
They were
great, but
tiny.
I always forget that the Game Boy Color had no backlight.
No, it didn't. It didn't have no backlight was until the Game Boy SP,
And it's
which was another two generations technically.
and it's small. I went to visit my college buddy a few months ago, and I brought my analog pocket, and his wife has been playing some Game Boy Color
Mm.
randomly, so she brought it out, and I looked at that screen. I was like, that screen is a
That's why we
third.
all. That's why most people had to use glasses. Like most people,
I remember
like
there was an
yeah,
attachment that you could put on the
yeah.
back that would magnify it. Yeah,
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 and
yeah.
also add lights and stuff. Like I used to have that for the Game Boy Advance. I mean, I have it to this day. Like back in my parents' home, I have this box which is in the garage, and I said garage in the most posh way. I always say garage, but I don't know why I said
No,
garage.
no, garage
Uh,
is the American way of doing it, so
that's probably why.
or
That's probably
Canadian
why.
way, maybe. I'm not sure.
That's probably why.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm gonna go back to my normal accent of garage, and um, the box is in there, and it still has. I don't know where the OG Game Boy is. That's disappeared, but I have the Game Boy Color, which was like the translucent,
Purple.
not the purple,
Oh.
not the purple one. It was like translucent white. So it was basically the same thing as a purple one, but didn't have a purple hue, but you
Yeah,
could
it's
see through
clear.
everything.
Yeah, it's like that.
It was
That's what I
clear.
ever think of when I think of the pocket.
I never had a pocket. But I know the pocket was just basically a Game Boy, right? But just smaller, essentially.
It could fit in
And
your
then
pocket.
it could fit in your pocket. I had the Game Boy Color, I had the Game Boy Advance, and I still have that to today. And I have also had the Game Boy SP, which I actually won in a competition. So I don't know. I think I've mentioned this before in this channel. I can't remember, but basically there was a magazine called Jet X or something like that. It was, I don't know if it was only in the UK,
Yeah, it's
but they had listener like questions in the magazine, and once I wrote in, and I got star question, and I can't even remember for the life of me what I wrote in. I need to try and find this
you got to find
magazine
them
somewhere.
indexed. Yeah.
Yeah, there must be index somewhere. Because I'm pretty sure Sonic was on the cover of that magazine as well. But anyway, I asked some sort of question, but I got star question, which meant I won a Game Boy Advance SP. So
Uh,
I got a Bulbasaur edition, which is green, which has like a
that's
Bulbasaur
pretty cool.
sketch. Yeah, and I still have it, and it still works. Like I went home for Christmas, and I still have all the games I had with it, and I still played it, and it still works really well. And yes, I would never sell that. That's just always going to be, you know. Um, but yeah. Anyway, so that was obviously the Game Boy stuff.
All
Same
right.
with
Here you are. You ready? Game Boy
oh, God.
Pocket came out in 1996 for 69.99 in Japan. It says, or that might just be the date. It might be the same price in North America.
Sure.
But yeah, $70. Pretty. I mean, yes, you got to account for
Inflation.
inflation, but now I'm less surprised that my mom was like, "Yeah, I'll just spend." I mean, it's no small chunk, but think of like how much you're getting out of that, right? You could
Well,
buy one Lego set for that same price, and you're getting
we were definitely working class, and my dad still. I remember when Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire came out for the Advance, and my dad bought both of them for me for my birthday. Like both of them, because I remember them being £30. I
yeah,
remember that for the fact they're 30. Like games now are in pounds would be like £50 or so. So I remember them specifically £30. So you just bought both of them, and like the exact same. I remember going through. I played through both of them as well. Like not like
too
there's any
funny. Yeah,
difference,
right.
but
Ooh,
like
I got an
I was like, oh,
Arkans.
I think I started
Eakins.
with Ruby. I think I started with Ruby. I think I started with, but it's like, oh, which one should I start with? The exact same game, but do I want to put the blue cartridge in or the red cartridge in? Um, I remember. I think with the Game Boy, Pokemon was the biggest game that I played the most. To be honest, I played a lot of other games, but I didn't play any of the Zeldas or anything like that. But
Yeah, I never got
I had
into
like
Zelda.
I had like Mario Kart and the Advance. Wario Land was so much fun, but it was the Pokemon's. Pokemon Silver was my favorite to this day, and I actually got Pokemon Crystal on my Ambernick on the
Mm-hmm.
on the retro one that I bought, and I've actually been playing through that some of it. It's just like a throwback, but
Nice.
those are good times.
Yeah, I think I was mostly Pokemon and Mario Six Golden Coins. I remember that
Yeah,
one.
yeah. I remember that one too. Super Mario Land, Mario Deluxe. Yeah, I remember those ones too. But then
Anyhow,
yeah, so a PS1 was same. That was my first console that I got too, like my first proper console. I think I got it way late because obviously I think it came out in 96 or 97 or something
mm-hmm.
like that. And I was 3 years old at that point, so I definitely didn't get it then. I think I got it. The PS2 came out in 99. I think I got it when the
No,
PS2
PS2 is 2000s.
was it not 99? You gotta check
October
this right.
2000.
Oh, okay. Maybe it was a year. Maybe it was 99 in Japan. I always thought it was 99, but yeah. Anyway, October
March
2000.
4th, Japan. October, North
Okay, so
America.
2000. 2000.
November, Europe. So,
So we had this catalog. It's called the Argos catalog. It's a very UK thing because it's like a
sounds UK.
it's like a catalog store where you look at the catalog, you go to the store and you just give them your number that you want from the catalog, and they'll get it from it's like a warehouse kind of store. Anyway, I used to get the catalogs often because the back would be the gaming section, and they have the PS1 all the time. And I was like, "Yep, I want a PS1. I want a PS1." I remember getting a PS1, and basically briefly after in the catalog, it was now all PS2 in there. So dad must have got it pretty cheap because it was like on the end,
At the
you know.
end. Yeah.
So as people had PS2s, had PS1s, I had the PS1. But yeah, a lot of Crash. That's what I remember. Looney Tunes games, Sheepdog and Wolf or Sheep Raider. I don't know if you've heard of that one. I loved that game. Um, there was a game called Ronaldo v Football, which was the Brazilian Ronaldo, soccer that is.
Definitely never played that
Amazing.
one.
Those are the games that I had. Also, my uncle had a gun, like a light gun. So we bought that round once, and he obviously connected to my PS1, and we had like, is it Time Crisis? I think it was.
Yeah, that's one of
Um,
them. That's a light gun game. I didn't even know they had a light gun for it.
yeah, they had a light gun for the PS1, which was really fun. But yeah, after PS1 was I didn't get a PS2. I went straight to Xbox. I
Oh
actually wanted
boy.
a GameCube. and my dad said, no, get an Xbox. It's going to be better because Microsoft. He was an IT guy, so he was like Microsoft, So we got an Xbox. That's where I played San Andreas and lost my innocence. I started swearing, all that stuff.
Damn, I forgot that wasn't an exclusive.
Yeah, that was San Andreas, which was on Xbox. The cool thing about the Xbox is that you could have your own music. So in San Andreas, you'll have your own radio station with your own tunes, which was fun. And then after that, I went Wii. And then I had Wii for a year. Then I kind of traded it in and got a PS3.
Yeah, I left out my Wii experience too. I guess it wasn't that memorable.
The 360 Wii PS3 era, I had them all. I never had but all of them at the same time. I just kept trading them in and getting for both. So I finished on the PS3 because of Last of Us, but I had a long stint of 360, which I had the slim one, which had like Wi-Fi built in and such. And I remember picking up all of the Gears of Wars for like next to nothing because they've been out for ages by then and all that stuff. And that's when I fell in love with Gears of War. And like, this is one of my favorite games ever, especially number 2. Number 2 is so good, but number 1's so good. And number 3 is really good too. But yeah. And then once exactly the same as you got to the PS4 and life started. Like I went to uni when the PS4 came out and just hardly played it. Like I played it the first year. I played it a lot, but after the first year, I still haven't finished GTA 5, for example.
Wow.
Because I had it on the PS4 because the PS4 came out and GTA 5 came out on the PS3, but I was like, I have the PS4 now. I'll wait till it comes out on the PS4. When it came out, I played a bit, but the hype was gone at that point, so I just never finished it.
I think I must have played through GTA 5 on a 360 first.
It was out like right at the end of that life cycle. But it was out.
But was the Xbox One or PS4 out already?
It came out like a month or two after.
Okay.
After GTA 5 came out. Yeah. So, but yeah, that was before VR. Just a quick one actually, because I know we've been rambling on this one, but you mentioned PC. Quake 3 was a big one for me. I played a lot of Quake. I think they're just remastering Quake 2 for Switch. I think I saw that announcement random the other day.
Yeah, it's only like $10 too.
Yeah, I freaking loved Quake on the PC. I used to play it a lot because it was back then when you didn't really need a massive PC to run a lot of these games. Like they would work on your like laptop because they were pretty basic enough. Football Manager, which was soccer, obviously. That's when I played Call of Duty for the first time. Was on PC. I played Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the first 4. Yeah, my dad got it. He bought a new graphics card for his PC, and it came with a copy of the game.
Wow.
And I was like, all right, I'm going to play this. And obviously it worked fine because it was, it had the right graphics card in there. And then it was the first time playing Call of Duty. And I was like, oh my, like the, the new modern ones. And I was like, wow, this is immense. Like, this is so good.
Yeah.
That OG one was so good. But yeah, anyway, that was my the most concise way I could have done it of history before VR. You're right. It's just life happens when PS4 came out, and it was just like I don't have enough time anymore.
This is why all the multiplayer games are filled with children. It is not just in VR.
No. It's also drinking happens. Alcohol happens. You normally go out drinking rather than playing games anymore.
Right. I guess I've enjoyed my Friday night breaching. Now I was even at a barbecue and I was like, nah, I gotta go.
Yeah, you do come around though. I'm like feeling it right now as I approach 30. I start coming more back into because that's like I don't want to go out drinking all the time and such like that. I've done that now. I'm coming back to the games more, and that's kind of why we're doing this podcast and such. But before we kind of get into how we do the podcast, let's kind of wrap up part 1 here in a little bow because we've gone in. In part 2, what we will talk about is the VR side of things, like what happened there in terms of our VR history, our first times, and how the podcast came about. So join us in part 2. We'll see you then.
Hey, we know public lobbies in VR games can be a bit toxic, feel a bit empty at times. That's why we created the Let's Talk Oculus Discord, a friendly community that you can join for multiplayer meetups, general VR chat, the game, and chat about VR, fitness motivation, and There's even a very impressive 3D printing channel. Join over 100 of our community members in the Let's Talk Oculus Discord for free. The link is right in the description.
All right, welcome back to part 2. This is our gaming history before and after of VR, but this time we're on the VR front. Samson, back to you. What was the first time you saw or played VR? What does that kind of look like? What's that history look like?
All right. Let me take you all back to a happier time before 2016, actually it was probably around 2015, 2016. And I was visiting my college roommate who worked in VR or with VR. And I don't remember the headset, what it was. I think he said it was a Samsung, something like this. Something Samsung adjacent or related. And it was a military personnel app to see if they were ready to go back into battle to help with PTSD or test PTSD, perhaps. I'm not sure. So essentially, I sat in a helicopter way up in the sky with my legs like hanging out of this helicopter window or whatever, the door, everybody can picture a helicopter, and if you can't, just go open up Google helicopter. And I was looking out the helicopter over a battlefield, essentially just like low flying.
Oh, cool.
And that was it.
That must have been like the OG developer kit that you have behind you. It must be something like that, the headset that they used.
Yeah, I don't remember at all. I don't believe it used his phone, so it must have been connected to his PC or something.
Oh,
it might have been using a phone. It's a long time ago, almost 8 or 9 years, so I do not remember.
Fair enough. Mine was similar-ish. It was at this like film/art studio. It's like a really small theater in my hometown, which they have like normally have art galleries on, but they have the odd theater production in there. It's one of those type of places. And they had, I think I was watching a film, and then I came downstairs and they had this like VR exhibition kind of thing. This was way back in 2016 or so, similar kind of time frame. And there'd be like a pole. Picture like a pole dance pole, and you'd go next to that, and there'd be like a headset attached on it. Bear with me here. You put it on, and the headset was probably the DK2 or DK1 Oculus. Like, it was old school. It was definitely that old school design. I remember it as well. It was obviously connected to a PC, but essentially you were on a pirate ship. And that pole is like you're holding a pole on the ship or something like orientate you, and then you're looking around, and you're basically it was very static, and it was just like you're on this ship and there's water.
You're just looking,
you're just looking. You can hear the headphones, you can hear like the sea and such, but it's not like you could move around or anything like that. It was very static. So that was like the very brief encounter, and my first proper VR experience wasn't until PSVR 1. Which I'll get to in a moment, but I'll first throw it back to you in terms of what was the first VR headset you owned, or what?
I will elaborate more as well, because around this time I also tried the HoloLens for the first time around 2016, and I remember messing around with having a little dancing dinosaur in the corner that was like static, so you could look away and then look back and it was there.
Oh, cool.
You could have various windows around your room, things on certain walls, and so I thought that was all pretty neat and cool.
Nice.
But to get to your question, my first owned VR headset, I bought a Quest 1 on Black Friday 2019, which is the day after Thanksgiving here in America. And it came with Beat Saber and the Vader Immortal series, or I bought Beat Saber and it came with the Vader Immortal series. I forget which.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Definitely would have came with Vader Immortal, because I think that's what there was always packaging, right? In 2019, so you must have bought it very briefly after launch then.
Well, November. I think it came out in May of that year.
Yeah, I think it came out earlier that year, but it was definitely 2019. So mine was before that then. Mine was 2017, and that was the PSVR 1. And I mentioned this on Between Realities, so, forgive us if you heard some of the stories before, but it was actually my dad who bought this. And he, for some reason, we didn't have any console. In fact, I think I was in a transition period where, yeah, I think I had a PS4 or a 3. No, an Xbox One S, like the slim one, back at uni, because I'll be at uni right now. I won't be in the parents' house. But for some reason, when the PSVR got announced, and he pre-ordered it with a PS4 Pro, so he got a PS4 Pro
Got to run
and a
it.
PS1, and like all in one go. Um, it wasn't like an ultimate bundle. He just bought the whole thing because he was just really interested in it. He was like, "Oh, I really want this. It's gonna be wicked or whatever," And I remember all the cables and everything coming in. The PS4
There's
Pro
a
was
lot of wires.
a lot of wires. PS4 Pro alone was like stupidly big. Like it was massive. In fact, the PS5 kind of still looks a little smaller than the PS4 Pro because
Really?
even though in height, well, in height, actually, the PS5 is bigger, but because of the slim kind of profile and the way it curves and such, having the PS4 Pros is like just a big brick in a way with like three kind of tiers, and it's very ugly console, and it's just heavy, and it is smaller in the end of the day than the PS5. But the PS5 just looks a bit sleeker, and I think that's why it kind of doesn't feel as much as a big brick.
It's
I think maybe
almost here, Dan. That is my day to buy the PS5.
apparently a slim version's coming out. I've
Yeah,
seen some leaks
that's what I'm waiting
as
for.
well.
That's what I'm waiting
So
for.
you might as well, yeah.
I
You
told
might
you,
as well
I'm
wait.
waiting for that PS5 Pro.
You might as well wait. Apparently September. I don't even know if it's a Pro or is it just a slim version, but who's to say? We'll see in September or so when it looks like it might be announced. But anyway, so he bought the whole thing, and yeah, a lot of freaking cables, but it didn't really matter at the time. It was like it's just what it is. I remember putting the headset for the first time. And it was very comfortable, and loading up the demo disc. So it came in with PlayStation Worlds, which was just like a demo disc, which was great. And I wish they did this for PSVR too. But essentially, it had 5 games on there, which a couple of them turned out to be full games, or maybe just one of them. But the other ones were just like little experiences just to mess around. Like one was a shark.
Were there
attack.
several demo discs? Because I feel like I've heard PSVR people
Yeah,
talk about these. Okay.
I think there was 2. There was Demo Disc 1, which was the worlds, and then there was the second one that was. I think that was more digital only. That one I think, but I can't remember. I didn't have the PlayStation VR 1 for long because I was at uni and in and out, so I didn't really. It wasn't like now, right? But the cool one with that one is that they had this shark attack where you would literally go in one of those cages and you go down and you can go down the ocean, and it was all like, oh, this is all wicked, and all of a sudden a shark comes at you and
Scare the
hits
crap out of me.
it is scary, but it's like it actually is really really fun. I was like, wow, this is actually really good. Few notable highlights: there was a kitchen demo, which was Resident Evil 7, where you would sit inside the kitchen. You couldn't do anything; you just sit there, and this like ghost woman comes up and kills this guy in front of you. And
it was
then,
like watching a cutscene play out.
it's like watching a cutscene while she was just sat there. But before you press start and have the experience, it's still really scary. Like the kitchen is like it's dark outside. The graphics was so crisp at the time. Maybe right now it won't hold up, but like back then it felt really crisp. I remember looking at the window, and I was like, the window is so like perfect. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
It feels so real. Also, it was a demo, so maybe they could push it a little bit more without needing to asset manage or anything. I don't know, maybe because in that small little contained thing. But it was excellent, and that was key things with the PSVR 1. I got motion sick for the first time playing this like robot football game. That's football meaning NFL football. Batman was wicked. That was really fun. Resident Evil 7, the actual game, I ended up playing the whole game in VR and finishing it in VR.
On PS1.
PSVR 1. Yeah, I finished the whole game in Resident Evil 7. I just liked it in VR more than I did in flat screen. And it gets to the stage where I think this is a lot with a lot of horrors, is that as you're playing the game, you eventually get kind of numb to the scares because they're kind of the same stuff happening. So it sounds scary. Right now, if I put Resident Evil 8 on the PSVR 2, I get scared immediately. But then if
You
I
get
were to
used to
play
it.
2 or 3 hours, you get used to it, and you're just not scared anymore. A few other highlights: everybody's golf VR, which is Hot Shots Golf in the US. That had a VR game which was really good VR golf game. More like Wii Sports Golf in a way, but it was just really fun to play that in VR. Super Hot, obviously everyone knows about Super Hot. And then watching the Premier League, watching the soccer Premier League, not the Premier League, sorry, the World Cup. The World Cup in 2018, wherever it was, Brazil, Rio. Um, BBC in the UK, they showed select games in VR, and it actually worked really well with the PSVR one, like really well. And it's a shame that's not really like, it was just a special one-off thing, but or maybe not many people did it, but it was like you were in your own box in the stadium, and it
Yeah, it's
worked
pretty
really,
cool.
really well. Yeah, and that was the first time watching something like
So,
live sports in VR.
and you just like feel like you're on the field, right?
You do. You can have different angles, so you like sit in your box, but then you can switch to like right behind the goal. So I didn't watch this one, but my Portugal were playing Spain, and Ronaldo scored a hat trick. And my uncle said he was watching it because he was on the PSVR one at that time, and he was like, I was literally sat behind the goal watching Ronaldo score a free kick, and it was pretty epic how it like worked out. And I was like, this is sick. I'm surprised it's not pushed as much like to this day, but maybe that's now going to change with Apple getting involved. But yeah, there's loads of fun stuff like that with VR. And I think the last thing I'll say before I pass it on to you is Astrobot's Playroom, or Rescue Mission. Sorry, that was PSVR one, which you probably heard a lot of hype about that one. Kind of like Moss, but really top tier. Like Moss is really good, but this one was like just a step above how like really well platformer it was on VR. Really good game. I'll be shocked if they're not working on a second one for PSVR 2. But it was really good. But yeah, that was like the gaming history for PSVR 1. Didn't have it for long because I was in and out of uni, and then ended up moving to Vancouver, so I just had to get rid of it anyway. But what I did play with it, I had a great time.
And then you got the Quest 2.
Yeah. Then, well, I always wanted a Quest 1. So I moved in Vancouver in 2019, and I always wanted to get a Quest 1. But when I moved to Vancouver, I couldn't really afford one. And didn't have the Quest 1. I was kind of looking at it, umming and ahhing. It was $300 Canadian. I was like, it's pretty reasonable. Umming and ahhing for so long. And then I saw the rumors, and then lockdown happened, so I forgot about it. But then after that, I saw the rumors of,
Quest 2.
Quest 2, and then bought it then. Wait, 2019 the Quest 1 came out, or was it 27?
I think it's 2019.
Because the Quest 2 came out in 2020, right?
Yeah, May 2019.
Oh, just a year and a half. Okay, that's probably why. Then during lockdown,
That's why people were upset.
Right. That's why. Yeah, I was like, "What the hell?" But yeah, we obviously talked about that in the podcast.
But it came out obviously earlier, like the 5th month of 2019, whereas Quest 2 came out October the 10th.
Yeah, it was
month.
a year. It was a year and a half.
Yeah.
It was a year and a half. Yeah, it was 18 months, which is still crazy, but still it was 18 months. But yeah, so I think I was umming and ahhing during lockdown, and then I heard the rumors that Quest 2 is coming. You might as well wait. So I just did wait, and I actually planned in my head. I was like, I might start a YouTube channel as well, like during that time, like for Quest 2, because it'd be fun. But yeah, so then I got Quest 2, which we'll talk about in a moment. But what about you with Quest 1? Any like big highlights?
Not particularly. I could only really play like 45 minutes or so in any given session. And I mostly just played Beat Saber, Deus Sim, and I think that's about it.
So it's like fair to say Quest 2 is where you've like properly took off in VR.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, fair enough. I think this is a good segue though of like how our podcast came about. So
yeah, I mean, Quest 2 is pretty much around the time it came.
Yeah. So do you want to speak? Do you want to speak to the people here, or how did the podcast become a thing?
Speak to the people. Well, I'll speak to the people willing to listen this far into this podcast.
Although there's some people who are at this are probably like, I already know this.
Yeah, right? Or I don't care.
Just do
Give
the
me the
goddamn
news.
show.
Yeah. Get out of here. I don't give a crap about you.
There is no news, all right? There's no news.
Well, Dan, around the time that Quest 2 came out, that's when I started getting into more walkabout and synth riders and playing more. And I was trying to learn more about games. So I started finding more YouTube channels. And your channel, Playtest VR, was one of them, where you can find the first 14 or so episodes of this here podcast in a nice little playlist for some really cringeworthy Let's Talk Oculus openings at the very least.
The OG, it's also because it's like lockdown era, so it's like I have like long hair, you've got like a massive beard as well, and it's like you're in different locations and the camera's all weird, and it's just
Yeah,
it is what it is. It's just your OG, right?
that's it. You got
Um,
to start somewhere and just start, and then boom, you go from there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, fun fact for those of you who don't know, on my YouTube channel, I created a series every Friday called "Let's Talk Oculus," which was just going through the news, and that's where like the name kind of we just use that name and be like, okay, I'm basically doing this, but as a podcast form. So let's just use this. So if you do go onto the my Playtest VR YouTube channel and you see the Let's Talk Oculus, you might see some weird attitudes. Like Dave, our Patreon of the show, he messaged me. He was like, "What was there episodes before Samson? Like, were you doing this all on your own?" And I was like, "I guess technically, but it wasn't a podcast. It was just a daily, like a
It was like,
news YouTube
yeah,
channel,
what
which
you
a lot of
see,
people do."
like Steve Knows or Mateo 311 release, like a weekly VR news video.
Yeah, so I had like a similar thing every single Friday called Let's Talk Oculus, and I was like, yeah, Samson was part of the equation at that point, but it wasn't really a podcast either, so
Yeah.
it was a bit different. But anyway, proceed.
Yes, yes, yes. So then I was following your podcast and I was annoying all of my IRL friends with my VR talk. And so I needed to find a
An
place
outlet.
to talk where people who wanted to hear me could hear me. Thank you all for listening. It still blows my mind that you all enjoy listening and want to hear from me, but you continue to do so, and I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, then Facebook came out with their showcase, the showcase, gaming showcase, and we
Yeah.
collected a bunch of, mostly you collected a bunch of, what do you call them?
Video clips. We got
Video
predictions.
clips from other content creators, and then we talked about it, and we enjoyed talking about it, and we were like, what the hell, let's just do this again. And then we never stopped talking.
We just never stopped talking. No, we had the one podcast, which wasn't really a podcast. It was just it was a podcast, but we wouldn't like release it
Yeah.
online or anything like that. It was only for YouTube only, for the Playtest VR channel, and it was just super fun to do and super fun to make. And I remember back then we were on Zoom. I remember I had my camera like positioned weirdly, and I would film my part on my computer. You would film your part on your computer, and then you would send me yours on Google Drive, which would take like 2 hours to upload, and then it would take me ages to download, and then I have to sync up the audio. It was just like I don't know what we're doing.
We were
But
not the most efficient. We're still
no,
not really the most efficient, but we were,
probably
it was
not.
almost like we were trying to be inefficient.
No, it was pretty. Actually, looking back on it, it was like I remember asking other people as well. I was like, "How do you do your podcast? What do you film it on?" They'll be like, "Oh, we just film it on Zoom." But I was like, "I need more. We do that at that time. Now we don't, but we film with Riverside. But like, it's just like we do that. But I need more. Like, what else do you do?"
Yeah.
Eventually, we figured it out to now where you don't even do upload anything, but it's all good now. But yeah, if you look back on some of those older episodes, it is interesting. We got a completely different theme tune, when we came on, different kind of graphics. It's very simple.
And then we had our first guest podcast not too far into it. I think it was within the first 10.
Yeah, I think we had Lipnox VR on like 6 or 7, which is one of the lost episodes because there's like 6 of them which are just don't exist on YouTube anymore. They are in the audio, but then we had Jeff Bull, who's at Mighty Coconut
Mm-hmm.
now, actually. So congrats to him for getting a role at Mighty Coconut. Well, I might have to talk to him again at some point. It's been,
Literally
maybe we'll
years.
get him for 111 or something if he's interested.
We'll
But
get him every 100 episodes.
yeah, he was on episode 11, and he was our first developer guest pod, which was really cool. He's such a cool guy. It was really good to have him on the show, and that was our first guest. And then from there, we just didn't stop talking.
Been a while.
It's been a while. Yeah, 99
Been a while.
episodes.
Any Matchbox 20? No, Dave Matthews Band. That's Dave Matthews Band.
Sure. Yeah, sure. All right, perfect. That will do for part 2. And in part 3, we'll just wrap this little bow of an episode up with some highlights from Quest 2 and just our VR wish list, just our in VR in general, what do we wish for the future. But just a little section. So we will see you in part 3. Let's Talk Oculus is available on all good podcast platforms and some rubbish ones as well. If you want to see the video version, it's available on YouTube and Spotify. And also, if you love us so much, then consider throwing us $1 at patreon.com/Let's Talk Oculus. Back to the show. Welcome back to part 3. We're continuing on our topic of the show, our gaming history, VR history. But this time we'll focus on the VR stage, as well as give you the games out this week. There's only one of them, so we'll throw that in right at the end. All right, Samson, this will be more of a quicker topic because obviously our whole 99 episodes has been on the Quest 2 and such. But any specific highlights, like way back at the beginning, that you wanted to point out? That you remember, like some games that maybe you haven't played for ages or anything like that.
Some games that I haven't played for ages. Well, honestly, this Deus Sim is a game I haven't played in a while. For sure. It's hard to think back to what I used to do.
I can give you some examples if you want to think for a second.
Yeah, sure.
Because I obviously starting the YouTube channel, everything I played was pretty much documented on YouTube. So my first game that I played was Vader Immortal. Obviously, it came out ages ago for the Quest 1, but I always wanted to play that game, and so I downloaded it. I never finished it. I only played the first one start to finish. The other two, actually, no, I played the first 2 start to finish. Never did the third one. I thought I had my fix, but I had a good time in that. Really fun, especially when you see Vader for the first time. Right at the start.
Yeah, that's cool.
Bit mad. Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners was my first like proper game. I put so many hours into that, and I still never finished the first one. Like I used to play every night. Like I'd come back from work, have dinner or something, and then in my room I would play.
Dan, I forgot to tell the story of how I actually really bought my first Quest 2, and your Vader Immortal story here just
go for it. Go for it.
So COVID hit, and I had moved to Florida, and I was playing VR more, but still just Beat Saber mostly. I brought it to a friend's house who lived near me down there. I didn't see him that often, and we played some VR, and he enjoyed it, right? He was loving Beat Saber. We'd switch off. We were playing together, and then a week or 2 later is when the Quest 2 came out, and he bought it. And I couldn't deal with having higher end tech than I had, so I immediately went out and bought it. Because I wasn't gonna go over and play VR with the dude where he's got a Quest 2 and I got a Quest 1. Yeah. Get out of here. So that's really the impetus of why I bought the Quest 2 essentially release week.
So you weren't really planning to buy the Quest 2?
Not that fast, because I knew I had the Quest 1 and it was an expensive device.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, for people who had the Quest 1, and it might be the same, less so, but for people with Quest 1, they could have held off till maybe Christmas to buy the Quest 2. That seems Christmas when 90 Hertz and such, like you had the updates, you had maybe a couple more games which probably ran better. That's probably what you want to buy the Quest 2. Like right at launch, you didn't really need to if you had the Quest 1. It's going to be different for the Quest 2 to Quest 3. I feel like you won't need to technically you won't need to buy a Quest 3 really until next year. Obviously we will anyway, but you know.
It was, I mean, I'm going to upgrade for the same reason I upgraded previously, which is for, and also speaks to my future of VR, of what I wish for more, which is better comfort, longer charges, longer battery life, better pass through, and, you know, maybe a AAA game or two. But honestly, I could do without those.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into that. A couple of highlights.
So what were you playing back in the day?
Yeah, actually, Five Nights at Freddy. I remember playing that, just scaring myself on YouTube.
Too scary.
The same. I had like 5 scary games that I put around Halloween,
No.
and some of them, like most of them, didn't really do well. But Five Nights at Freddy took off. It was like 40,000 views or something within the first like month or so, and I was like, "This is great." I don't know what it's on now, but it's on quite a bit. And then I did like ranking my 5 best out of the 5 that I played, and that kind of did well. That was like over 1,000 and such, and I was like, okay, this is fun, this YouTube thing. I mean, it makes a big difference when you get like a lot of views, and it's like, oh, okay, that's cool. Lies Beneath was one of the horror games that I played, which I still love to this day. Never finished it, which is like most of these VR games, but loved it. So many. The graphics are really cool. It's a kind of good storytelling, and it's like more of a comic book style.
It's a good one.
It is scary, but not like super scary, you know. But it's like a game that's scary enough that you can play it and still be fine. It's not.
That game scared me. At one point, I was playing that with somebody watching me, so I could have them talk to me over Discord.
Yeah.
And they asked me what was wrong at one point, and I was curled up on the floor.
Bless.
They were like, "Why is the camera on the ground? Like, what am I looking at here?" I was like, "Sorry. That was me on the ground."
I did close my eyes quite a few times when playing that game, but that game is really fun. I remember the Exorcist game I didn't like as much, but I know they've updated that since. But what was the other game? It was the Manor. It was like begins with A. I forgot. I didn't write it down. But what was it called? I should just look on my YouTube, shouldn't I? But they essentially, was it Haunted the Manor? I'm gonna just type in Manor on Affected the Manor. That's it.
Yeah.
They had a DLC that came out because I think it was an older game, and it was this candlelight kind of DLC where there's no shooting or anything. You're basically holding a candlelight, and that's your only light, and you have to navigate through the mansion with just the light. And it wasn't as scary as you would think, but I did that on YouTube as well, and I actually really liked it. I think I played through it 2 or 3 times, going through, but it's cool because you literally just have, as soon as you pick up the candlelight, the door opens, and it's pitch black. And you're like, shh, okay. Like, go on my playtest VR, go right to like one of the beginning episodes and beginning YouTube videos, and have a look at that because it was so much fun. They also had a speed run thing, which is cool. But the light thing was really cool because it's pitch black.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was one of them. I remember playing Population 1 when that came out. That was a big release in the end of October. I remember buying that.
Never got into it, but yeah.
I remember talking to people on it, and I was like, subscribe on YouTube, blah, 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 such all that stuff, you know. Obviously, Walkabout came into fruition then. And then a bit of PC VR, you know. Back then, I had like a bit of a PC VR setup, which I spoke about before, through a Mac, but we won't get into that now. But I played a lot of Lone Echo 1. Never finished it, as always. I'm just not even bothered saying that anymore, because what's the point? Because another one that I never finished is Half-Life Alyx. But I remember playing Half-Life Alyx, and that was the only VR game that I had on the PC Mac kind of combination, which struggled to run at like good settings. And if I put it on like medium or low, it was fine. But anything above that, it struggled. But like Lone Echo on high, it would work. Even Medal of Honor at high, it would work. But when it comes to Half-Life Alyx, is the one that really tested. The only thing I didn't like about Half-Life Alyx, and I don't really want to speak too much about this because I only played it for a little bit, but it was just I didn't like the movement side of things in terms of the teleportation and such. I didn't really like how that felt. Apart from that, it was a really fun experience of what I did. I remember the intro of Half-Life Alyx where you literally it like fades and then you see the whole city and there's like this big robot kind of crawling. Can't
Yeah,
remember what it's
it's a
called.
cool
Yeah.
intro. Yeah,
And I was like, whoa, this is like insane. I've never seen anything like this in VR before. Still probably one of the benchmarks, right? But that was very
for
impressive.
sure.
Any PC VR things that stick out to you back then, or?
I mean, I've gotten into PCVR since then, not back then.
Right, fair enough. Did you play Half-Life Alyx? Did you really get into it, or?
I never beaten it, but I've hopped in. I've gotten in there for a little bit. I've never beaten a single Half-Life game. I've gotten into them all. I've started them all. I've enjoyed the worlds of them all, but I've not beaten them all.
That's fair.
This was on my goals for the year, I think, and
You're coming. It's
I've got 4 months left, I guess.
You got time. You got time. You got time. And then final thing before we go out to the games out this week and wrap up the show, VR wish list for me is very similar to you. My biggest thing right now for VR is that I want something more comfortable. It doesn't have to be technically. It doesn't have to be lighter because that's what the Quest 3 is not going to be lighter, but it needs to be more
Better form
comfortable.
factor, yeah.
Because I want to. Sure, we're in big screen now and again to watch a movie, which is fine, which is great. But I want to do that more often. I feel like even with the Quest 2, I don't feel like I can do that more often. You know, go through the Oculus TV and spend some time in there. I always feel like it's just too much. I don't know if that's just because it's very hot right now.
It's heavy.
But it's heavy. It's not as heavy as well. It's definitely you get used to the weight because when I went to PSVR 2 and played that exclusively for like a few weeks and then went back to Quest 2, I was like, oh, it's very front heavy. You know, you
Yeah.
definitely notice it, but you do get used to it, and that's fine. But I just want a more comfortable headset that I can literally, it like the Quest Pro, where I could just literally pop it on and get into it and not
It'd be
feel
good.
You know, I know a lot of people have some comfort issues with Quest Pro, but I always thought it was pretty good. But just something like small, light, and just throw on. It's comfortable. I can just jump into VR. But that's my wish list. Is there anything else that you wanted to say with your wish list? Or
No. I like where we're at, like where we're going.
nice. That's very nice. That's very nice. All right, let's wrap the show up. Games out this week. There's one out. Take it away.
Take it away. I expect you to die 3, cog in the machine. Outwit your most cunning adversary to date in the latest installment of this popular spy-themed puzzle series. Wield new gadgets, visit action-packed locales, and wear custom disguises as you dive back into the world of espionage in this escape room game. Yeah, I'm hearing an echo on myself.
I can't hear anything. You're great.
All right. I'm going to continue then. It's like when I talk, I'm seeing. Oh no, I see. I thought I was seeing it on your end. All right, I'm gonna start over.
I'm not editing this out. Continue. Just keep going.
Your skills and survival rate make you one of our most capable agents, and you've resurfaced just in time. Zoraxis, our sworn enemy, has something new up its sleeve, and we fear there will be dire consequences if we don't stop its diabolical schemes. We're counting on you to throw a wrench or screwdriver into whatever evil is brewing. Protect the agency and the world as we know it, without losing your wits or your life.
Dun, dun, dun. I expect you to die 3. I know a lot of people who love that game and will buy this game. I never got past the first one. I think I spoke about that last week. And so have you. Not. I know you own both of them too.
I own the first 2, but I've not. I don't even think I've even booted it up.
I've not booted up the second one just because I never got past the first one. So I just bought it in a double back, right? So It's just one of those. It's just one of those. Perfect. That will do for our show. For Let's Talk Oculus, episode 99. I hope you enjoyed this kind of change your pace, this more laid back style. It is a summertime, you know. It's kind of getting up to 100 is actually a good time to do it because there's less news and we can just do these fun topics in between. Like I said, for the those who are still listening and still watching, we will be live on Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern on the Let's Talk Oculus YouTube channel. We will let you know beforehand on Discord, and we will tweet it out as well just to confirm. But it is Well, not just to confirm, just to remind you more like anything else. We will be there. There'll be announcements. There'll be merch. There'll be questions. There'll be a fun topic. Come and join us live. Come and support us even more that you have done for the 99. We appreciate it a lot. And we will see you live.
See you the next time on Let's Talkulus.